And when you read a piece that Peter wrote, you were transported to wherever that was. If it was the Night of the Champions and you were reading it, you were there. You were in the front row with his picture-perfect methodology of explaining what's going on, the details, and the little nuances, and his ability to tell a story and put you there
100%
was unsurpassed. Rick Wayne was very similar. When I grew up, he was one of the best writers. They had a lot of great writers back then, and we had a hell of a writing team. And unfortunately, Peter's no longer with us, or my buddy Sean Perrine was also a great storyteller. Greg Merritt, who wrote a great piece.
Fantastic.
Also another, just again, one of the best. At one time, Peter had amassed the best writers of, and this is when there was 6-7 magazines out. The old magazine wars. There was MD, Muscle Training Illustrated, Iron Man,
Muscle Mag,
Planet Muscle with Jeff Peterson, Flex Magazine. COVID coming.
Muscle Mag.
So I'm getting choked up just talking about it. Muscle Mag. I mean, there was, and then there's a whole bunch of Muscle World. There's a whole bunch of smaller ones that were out there. But wow, I mean, there was all these titles and all these magazines, but that was the only way that you could get your fix on all things bodybuilding related. And Peter was just simply the best. I mean, you couldn't beat. And then it's all the little thing. I mean, people didn't know. Like, he did almost everything. And I mean, he had writers obviously, but all that, like the old Hocus Focus piece. It was a little. Again, anything was a play on words with Peter. So he was so good at puns. You talk about the king of puns. I mean, he was it. And, they refer to me as the voice of bodybuilding, but I mean, he was the true voice of bodybuilding. Before it kind of went to the MC route here, but. That was the voice. That the magazines were the voice. There was no Skype. Listen, our ability to do this is fantastic and it's great, but you couldn't beat with what he had to work with at the time, and the ability to go and take it all in, and his memory. Right up until the end, bro. I mean, he can remember detail. You could talk about a show in the '60s, and Peter would know all the. I mean, he could tell you everything. I mean,
I think the difference between Peter and other people is that I could tell you who placed where at the so-and-so Olympia, but he was at that Olympia, the 1977, the 1982 or 84. I can remember. I can say Bertil Fox was 5th in the 1983 Olympia, but that's all well and good. But he was there, probably sat in the front row. And also, like, if I want to know what Bob Chick's up to next week, I can look at your Instagram and pretty much good chance I can instantly find on my phone what you're up to, what you've been up to in the last few weeks. But then all he had was a telephone.
And that's all you had. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like,
no mobile phones.
There was no social media. There was nothing. You had a telephone and an ability to connect with the athletes, and people love Peter. He's one of the few people. I was just talking about this the other day with Dan Solomon, and we came to the conclusion Peter is one of the only people I can think of in this industry that I never found anybody who didn't like him.
Yep.
Like, he had no natural enemies. I mean, granted, there was the magazine war thing back in the day, but nothing of that was personal towards Peter. It was, Flex versus MD and all that kind of stuff. And, but that was more business, kind of the business of bodybuilding related. And it sold tickets and all that. But I've never found anybody in this industry who didn't just have the most extreme respect and admiration for Peter, because he didn't really choose sides when it came to. And listen, he told it the way it was.
Yeah.
And
how did he not make enemies? How did he not make enemies?
Because he had a way of phrasing things. He's like the anti-Sean Ray. See what I mean? Like, there's, like Sean is very direct and to the
very
point.
blunt. Yeah, he's very
There's
blunt.
no filter there. Peter actually was direct and to the point, but he actually had a filter, so he was able to phrase things in a certain way that. Okay, you didn't really like what he said, but you understood it, and it was okay. Sean, not so much. He gets his good and his bad with reviews and petitions and things. But listen, all that it said, Sean tells it the way it is, and that's how Peter was. Peter told it the way it was.
Everyone has their own different style, and can you imagine this? Could you imagine Dorian Yates without Peter McGough and Pete McGough without Dorian Yates? How their careers would have been shaped, how differently they might have gone. I mean, those two, literally, they arrived at the same time. Dorian as a bodybuilder, Peter as a writer, and their careers were just an upward trajectory from that point on, wasn't it?